So now we're going to take a look at the ePortfolio rubric. Now this is the rubric for the first semester, and I'm just going to point out a few things that I think people have questions about, or that I've seen questions pop up about. So as you read through this rubric, and there's a checklist up above too, it says specifically what should be required on each page. And when you think about this professional photo, for those of you who are just getting started and it's your first semester, do be sure the photo is professional. You would want this to be something that it's not like you at a beach or you at Six Flags, or you with your family even. This is you as a professional. Try to make it as professional as possible. For instance, I wouldn't expect to see you in a wedding dress or you in your tuxedo. I would expect to see you in professional attire, a headshot basically that shows you to the best of your ability, but not in any kind of social situation. It's more a professional photo. So your employment statement, this is like what are you doing right now, or what has your past employment been that's brought you to this point. If you don't have any employment experience in the field that you're going into, talk about what your employment experience has been up till now and what's leading you to do this degree right now. We do need your social media contact, and you need to have a LinkedIn profile. You need to create a LinkedIn profile if you don't have one already. That LinkedIn profile is going to be a way we stay in touch with you after you graduate from the program, as well as while you're in the program. So that's going to be really important for us to track you and to keep in touch. So we do require that in your ePortfolio. And then you need, on that same landing page, you need to introduce your electronic portfolio. What are you hoping to accomplish with this electronic portfolio? I know it's required, so don't say I'm doing this because it's required. Because we know that between you and me. Pretend that you're showing this to your future employer. What do you want to say that introduces this electronic portfolio? What are you proud of? What's going to be in this electronic portfolio that you really want them to pay attention to? What says something amazing about you? So this is your chance in that paragraph on this landing page to say something about who you are, and something enthusiastic about why you want to do the job that you're being trained to do right now in this master's degree program. Now, remember too, over time, we want you to take these with you after you graduate. So some of this content will change over the years. Even during your program, you can go back always and make changes to this. Also, let me point out, you see the 3, the 2, and the 1. If you don't get a 3 on each criteria, so we've got all these different criteria, and you can see there are point values. If you don't get a 3, that just means that there's editing that needs to be done. And if there's a 3, then there's also going to be a comment from our reviewers that says exactly what needs to be done. Maybe something's missing. Maybe you didn't include this, or maybe it was just one sentence and we want to see more. Maybe there were some grammar errors. Whatever the case may be, there's going to be, if it's perfect and exactly what's needed, there's going to be a 3. If more editing is needed, there's going to be a 2. Think of this as a process. As you go through your graduate school career for this master's degree, this is something you're going to continue working on and perfecting as time goes on. It would be very unusual, I think, for everyone to get perfect scores the first time. So don't be worried or upset or alarmed if you don't get a perfect score. That this is not graded. You're not getting an A, B, or C right now. This is just to show that, okay, you need to make some edits. So if there are things you don't get 3s on, that tells you, well, I need to go back and work on those. And after each semester, after we have the reviews, the reviewers are going to set up Zoom meetings with students, and they will post a schedule so that they can talk to you specifically if you have specific questions about help that you need, or what else they think that you need to include, then they will guide you step by step in those Zoom meetings. So that's something that we're adding that's intended to make things a little bit more clear for you. But don't be upset and think, oh, I should have gotten a perfect score. No, because this is an editing process. And if you've ever worked on a big project, you know that editing is just part of it. So don't worry about perfection the first semester. We want you to do your very best. But at the same time, if there's something that's not there that needs to be there, you want to know that too before this goes before faculty for review. Okay, so under my professional education, you're going to have an introduction. So we want one paragraph there, something that introduces what this section is about. So one of the pages in this section is professional and lifelong learning resources. So these professional resources are things that speak to you. This could be websites, it could be journals, it could be conferences, it could be certain books, it could be podcasts, it could be any resources, it could be, the American Library Association, certain webinars. It's whatever you want to, you're going to keep going back to that. It could be a textbook that you read. You could say, wow, this was so informative and it really helped me and it made a huge impression on me. This is a resource that I want to make sure I don't lose track of. So you're going to have a list of resources under that professional resource page. For your current degree plan, you're not required to have that current degree plan loaded until the end of your first year. So sometime during your first year of coursework, you're going to need to have an appointment with the advising office because that degree plan is actually like an official document and you will get that from the advising office. So after your first semester, sometime during your second or third semester, contact the advising office and make an appointment to sit down with them and get that degree plan in place. You don't have to jump out and do that the first semester. Instead of the degree plan, you can just put, until you have it, you can just put the classes you're taking now, what you plan to take in the future, and in which semesters. This may change over time, but you basically know what classes you're required to take. You should have access to that information. Now for the co-curricular research and publication, a lot of you are not going to do research and publication because this is a master's program, and that is fine. But if you do have research and publication, now this would be actual published articles or something like that. There's also a conferences page. So if you attend conferences, you can add information there under the conferences page. If you want to, you can add a service page under these co-curricular activities, and this would be places where you volunteer that have something to do with the profession. And so that looks great because service is highly valued, and for a lot of jobs, service is actually required too. So if you want to, you can add a service page with information, but just know that this research and publication is not required, but if you have it, you can add it there. All right, so we talked about the degree plan and the research and publication. Let's talk about the philosophy of practice, the professional philosophy of practice. When I was in elementary education once upon a time, we used to call this our philosophy of education. So this was like, what are 3 or 4 guiding principles? I think of it as a stool. On your stool, you need at least 3 legs to hold it up. 2 legs don't really hold up a stool. You need at least 3 legs. Maybe 4 is even better. So think about, what are 4 key components, 4 essentials? As you're going through your coursework, you're going to learn a lot of things. What are essential for the job that you hope to have one day? What did you learn that you said, oh my gosh, this is so important to me, and here is why? For instance, as a school librarian, which is something that I did for several years, as a school librarian, one of the things that was essential to me was choice. I wanted students to have free choice to pick the books that they wanted, because research showed how important it was. If students were going to become engaged readers, they had to want to read the books that they were checking out. Now this is a problem because teachers like to tell students what they can and can't check out. They say, oh no, that book's too hard for you. Oh, that book is too easy for you. Oh, don't pick that book. No Pokemon books. No one can check out any Pokemon. Graphic novels, why are you reading graphic? This is a problem. This is what happens. So I would say, no, teachers, I'm sorry, but it's important that students be able to check out what books they want to read, because you can force them to put a book in their backpack and take it home, but you can't force them to read it. So let them pick the books that they want to read. It is so important. They will never become engaged readers if they have to read what you choose for them. So that would be one of my legs. That would be one of the legs under my professional philosophy, because I was passionate about that. And I would use examples, to show why it was important. So you think about this in terms of what's important to you. What is essential? You don't talk about everything. There could be 100 things. Just talk about four things that are essential. So you'll have 4 paragraphs. By the end of the first semester, you'll only have 1 paragraph. But by the end of the program, you'll have 4 paragraphs with a really strong philosophy. We talked about the core competencies, so we're going to skip over that. Okay, here's your blog. Now, can you use discussion board entries from classes for your blog? Sure you can. Take away any evidence that these are assignments, though. You want this to look like a blog. So you should have a date and a title for each entry. I think it's always great to have an image for each entry. If it's not your image, it's best if you can take pictures and include your own images for things that you're doing out there in the world, in this world, this library world. If you're borrowing an image, make sure and give credit, cite it, because it's just like anything else that we borrow. If it's not ours, we should cite it. So we want each semester for you to have 4 entries. By the end of the 5th semester, you'll have 20 blog posts at least. It's a good thing. Remember, an image is nice, a title and a date for each blog. And yes, you can use some of those discussion board reflections. And then your curriculum vitae, this may change over time too as you're going through the program. But that curriculum vitae, you want it to be as beautiful as it can possibly be. It is so important because that's going to be one of the first things that future employers see. So take some time and really get that curriculum vitae looking great. Now, we always recommend too, there's a couple other pointers I'll give you. We recommend that you embed documents when you're using the ePortfolio template and FolioTech. We recommend that you embed the documents and include the link. For usability standards, fewer clicks is better. Anytime you have something web-based, fewer clicks is better. So embedded is better. And you can change the size as you embed documents. So we encourage you to embed and include a link. Some people would like to have that link, but for the most part, people want fewer clicks. So that's something to keep in mind. Let me check here and make sure there's nothing. Now, I do want to point out one other thing. Under the second semester checklist, and some of you are on that checklist right now, and those of you who are in your first semester, you will be. On the second semester checklist, you can see that it will say things like, let's look at the rubric. It says, be sure to include, at least under the My Background and Plans, please see the instructions in the ePortfolio template. Be sure to include at least 3 graduate level paragraphs describing why you chose to pursue this graduate degree and what you plan to do when you graduate. So this is by the end of the second semester, you should have 3 paragraphs altogether in this section. You don't need to add an additional 3 paragraphs. If you had 1 in the first semester, it's not an additional, it's 3 altogether. So whenever there are numbers like that, you see down here under professional learning resources, you need to have at least 5. Later on, you're going to need 10. By the end, you need 15 professional resources. If you want to work ahead, go ahead. You can do that. Let's look down and see if there are other places. Okay, so under ALA competencies, for every class you do, remember, I think you should do 1 to 2 assignments per semester for each class. You're going to need 16 assignments linked to ALA competencies by the time you finish, by the end of your 5th semester. So it doesn't hurt to be working on that every semester. For every class, do at least 1 ALA competency, but sometimes there might be 2 assignments that meet 2 different competencies. So be sure and be working on that as you go. Even though, yes, technically, they're going to be met in the core classes, but you're going to need more than just what's in the core classes. All right, and I think there's also points for images here. here, and in the other video I pointed you to the helpful resource about images. And there's also a little bit about design features. Make sure and read that. We want this to look as snappy as it can. And this concludes our second video. Let me know if you have questions. Thanks. Bye.